Tollways are increasingly looking to integrate renewable energy into their facilities, their operations, and on the land that they own. By harnessing solar and other renewable sources, Tollways can reduce their carbon footprint, lower their energy costs, and enhance sustainability. I talked about this with Jonathon Hart, who's a leader in tollway planning and policy. Check it out.
I think one of the first things that we need to understand is that every toll operator, every toll system has different unique characteristics, specifically governance, the range of authority they have. So when we're talking about how tollways can integrate these solutions, there's always that caveat that this is a broad generalization. These don't go for everybody, but these are strategies that can be used. Tollways can do quite a bit towards reducing their carbon footprint. The first and possibly easiest thing for them to do would be to replace their fleet with electric vehicles, not suggesting that they go out and replace their entire fleet on day one, but those vehicles age out pretty regularly. And as they do, replace them with electric vehicles, and you are cutting your emissions fairly substantially. The next option is trying to offset some of those emissions. So if we think about operating your facilities, we can and do see a lot of facilities being built LEED certified with some solar. That solar is usually not too terribly significant in terms of offset, but we do see that. The other option is to have larger solar sites offsite, solar farms, solar installations, where you can generate the energy for those facilities and effectively offset your operations.
Now, I know tollways are ultimately businesses, so revenue is very important to them. What are the potential revenue streams that could arise from integrating renewable energy sources into tollway operations or into tollway properties?
We have to remember that we're talking about an entity that exists to move hundreds of thousands of cars. That in and of itself is antithetical to reducing one's carbon footprint. But there are opportunities. Well, we talked initially about using solar to offset energy usage, but you certainly don't need to stop there. A toll facility, again, with all of the right-of-way that it has available to it, can generate in excess of what they need. And that can be used in a number of ways, but one of the most straightforward ways would be to sell that power back to the grid. You can look at it as a revenue stream if that is possible to execute. At the same time, whether you're using that electricity directly in your operations or you're selling it back to the grid, you're still creating a certain amount of green energy. So if you're not using it directly, it really doesn't make a difference. You're still generating green energy and sending it back to the grid. Effectively, that's no different than if you used it on site.
At CVM Smith, we understand a thing or two about staying ahead of the curve. The world is facing environmental and infrastructure challenges with lasting implications, so we're building solutions with lasting results. We'll help you embrace what happens next because it's happening now. Learn more at cvmsmith.com/nextisnow. Okay, let's get back to it. How did Tollways balance, the need for development, the need to handle capacity with goals like minimizing environmental impact or managing and minimizing carbon footprint? How do they balance those goals?
There have been substantial advancements in construction methods that place minimal strain, or at least less strain, on the environment in which it's being constructed. There are green materials, green concrete, recycled asphalt. These things all have their place. You can run your construction equipment on compressed natural gas, presumably battery at some point in the future. But again, ultimately, you're building a very large road to carry a lot of cars. So you're only going to get so far with green materials. And I genuinely believe that the best thing that they can do is to use that excess right-of-way to generate green power that goes back into the grid. I want to come back to this idea of it doesn't matter where you generate that green energy, whether you use it on site, whether you send it back into the grid, whether you put it into battery storage, you're generating green energy. And that's what ultimately matters.
Now, we've talked about this a little bit, but Tollways have their own energy costs, electricity for lighting, for plazas, rest areas, offices. How bullish are you on the potential for Tollways to use renewable energy to try to offset some of the existing operational costs around all the facilities that they operate?
Well, I think it's immediately possible. We've looked at offsetting some of our clients' carbon emissions, and it doesn't really take that much to do it. I say it doesn't take that much. We're talking about many acres of solar, but if you spread that across a 50-mile, 100-mile, 300-mile system, it's absolutely doable. It's one of those things that we could go out and do today if the political will were there and if the supply chain were there. So I'm pretty bullish on it. It's really just a matter of these authorities and agencies deciding that that's what they want to do.
Well, I'm excited to see how this plays out, Jonathan. This has been fascinating to discuss this with you. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Terrific. Thank you very much.